Men need to understand the distinction between living a life defined by priorities or living a life defined by commitment. They need to understand that living by commitments is more difficult in the short term, but in the long term, it's easier.
Sacrifice is hard, that's for sure. No one's going to like it. A fair amount of suffering too, to not have whatever you're sacrificing. But the results and the rewards, once you get through it, are there. Keep the eye on the prize, because eventually you'll make it.
You're a man living in the modern world in a time when men and manhood are not what they once were. You live life on your own terms. You're self-sufficient. You think for yourself and you march to the beat of your own drum. When life knocks you down, you get back up because in your gut, you know that's what men do. You're a badass and a warrior. And on the days when you forget, we are here to remind you who you really are.
Welcome to Sovereign Man Podcast, where we aim to make men masculine again. I'm your man, Billou, and I'm here with my man, Rob Arpa. What's up, Arp?
What's happening? Not much, brother.
Another gloomy day in paradise, as they say.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to get some rain this afternoon, which I guess,
Oh, God.
May showers. What are you going to do?
Well, it's supposed to be April showers bring May flowers, but all good. I guess.
Yeah, it's still a little early for flowers.
Yes, we've been delayed by a month.
That's all good, man.
One of the things that keeps coming up in my life is I've had people that have made, commitments and agreements to meet with me, to do something with me, to say they're going to follow through on something. And then they call me and they say, hey, I got another priority right now, and that's going to take precedence. Yeah. Do you run into this, first of all?
Yeah, other stuff's come up. Yeah, other stuff's come up. I do come across that a lot. And generally speaking, I find a lot of men would say things like, oh, I have to prioritize my family, which I tend to find it is them using it more as an excuse rather than an actual priority.
Yeah. The interesting thing is, in the world of relationships between men, right? Relations between men, we tend to trust men who keep their commitments, and we tend to distrust men that give us excuses like priority is higher somewhere else, so I got to break my commitment to you. Yeah. I trust a man who I can rely on to keep his commitments, and I distrust a man who I know is iffy on his commitments at best.
I think a part of that challenge too is that we've been taught to list things by priority and not really by what you're committed to, right? And the other thing is, like, I don't think men realize the benefits of holding commitments until it's too late, right? So we can, I come across that all the time where men will prioritize sometimes just like it's really absolute silly, nonsensical things. This is a higher priority. It's like, why? That makes absolutely no sense. But men don't understand that as a man, your highest driving thing in life really should be what you're committed to. If a man's committed to his family, that doesn't necessarily mean you prioritize it over something else, because that could definitely have negative effects. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. A man who pretends that priorities matter over commitments doesn't realize that what he's actually doing is he's weakening himself. Because as a man, every time you make commitments and you hold them, you get stronger, right? And every time you make commitments and you break them, you get weaker. It's like your level of trust in yourself dissipates, which means that when you make a resolution to say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, for example, double my income. I'm going to earn $1 million or $10 million or whatever the case may be. Your own trust in your ability to follow through on the things that'll make that come alive is gone. It doesn't exist. and therefore that lack of trust means it's not going to happen. And I'm wondering if maybe you can expand on that for us.
I, I don't know. As I, I'm still honestly stuck in my head with the thought of, men, uh, the difference between priorities and these commitments, and reflecting on some of my past experiences, I find that I don't know, maybe you find the same. Is that like a man's priorities, they change. Like priorities are never firm. It's almost like the flavor of the day. This is
Yeah.
a priority over that today. And commitments being rather, or should be rather,
Commitments
called
are fixed. Priorities change with the wind,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and that's become apparent. Um, and just thinking aloud, how many men would say they would like an example would be if a man lived by priorities and prioritized his family over his commitment to family, um, could uh, not do work or take on less work or earn less money because at the moment he's prioritizing his family over work, whereas commitment to being a provider is now overridden, which would cause detriment to the family in the long term. Like there's so much of that dynamic to go into.
Well, a man whose word cannot be trusted is a man whose value out in the world and in the marketplace
Yeah.
is diminished.
Yeah,
And
we always say that, right? Like a man's worth is his word, or
yeah,
is the sum total of his masculine identity is related to directly to how the level at which he maintains his commitments. But again, the problem with that is anyone that would be listening is like you don't understand your value amongst men until it has none or not enough. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like when it's too late. It's like when you're in the fire and you need someone to hand you a hose, that's when it's going to matter,
yeah,
right? Like when you're in the trenches, and the call to run is to go and whatever. Like that's when you find out whether your value as a man is there or not, right? Is the man fighting next to you going to cover your back, or is he going to leave you stranded? Because that's really what's going to come down to. And I don't know about you, but there are a few men where I wouldn't piss on fire to put them out, kind of thing, because
yeah.
their
I feel exactly the same
value
way.
as men is dog shit, right?
It's
So
dog
like,
shit.
why would I risk myself, for someone of such low value? And it's an odd concept to grasp, especially being raised in a whole feminine type of upbringing, to understand that value. Like it's hard to comprehend. So I understand there's a challenge with that, but they're as men and creating as we do hierarchies and so forth, not every man not every man is equal, and sometimes at some point some men are just not worth saving. It's a unfortunate reality of our species, I guess. And it's not, I doubt it's just us. I'm sure if we were to look at you know animals in that tribe that are social, like dogs or lions, there's always males that are outcasts, or wanderers, always looking for the next tribe. There's always combats for hierarchy. Like this stuff is just nature. We can't really fight it. We can probably look to use it, exploit it, for the betterment of our tribe. But saying that it doesn't exist, or being negligent to the fact, doesn't make it go away.
Yeah. So there's a number of men that you and I've come across in our community, right? Sovereign man that have demonstrated that their commitments mean nothing to them. So there's this one fellow. I mean, we won't mention his name on air. We just spoke about him beforehand. He had made a commitment to us that he was going to be participating in a program we have, which is the commitments for 3 months, and the commitment is you attend 2 meetings a month, and you show up on buddy calls. I mean, it's a straightforward commitment, right? It's
Yeah.
He started to, very soon after joining and agreeing to that commitment, backpedal, backtrack, and talk about priorities and other things. And at the end of the day, while I happen to like this fellow, I don't trust him as far as I can fucking throw him.
Yeah, I agree.
Because he very quickly started bitching and making excuses about this. And the truth of the matter is, he's not the only one. There was a fellow that we had in our community out of Nigeria who did something similar, quit before his 3-month commitment was up. And then he didn't even want to pay his full fee. And I'm like, you committed to the full fee. You didn't commit to partial fee.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, like, as far as I'm concerned, that man's not welcome back, right? Not because I don't like him, but because I don't trust him. And I don't want men in our community that I don't trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. The Nigerian fellow, like, in our world, we all say, like, men make mistakes. Mistakes will happen. That's as right as the sun will rise every morning, right? But we also say that a man must make things right, and clean up. And for a man like that, for me to even consider anything with him in the future, like, he would have to make things right. That pay off the balance he was originally committed to, and then he might have to do something a little extra, right? Just to show that
that he gets it, but he won't. He won't. Listen, this is a man who will never understand this, and more than fine. I mean, more than fine. God bless him. Good luck to you.
Yeah, it's more his problem than it is mine, for sure.
It is strictly his problem, not yours, not mine. But there's tons of men like that. And then there's men, like there's this man in our group, again, I won't mention names, whose commitment's pretty solid. Like, he's a photographer, right? And he made a commitment that he was going to post a photo a day for 90 days. Fuck, Arp.
And he's got, like 3 or 4 days left or something like that?
Like, I think 2 after today. Like, he's fucking taking care of business, right?
And you know what's astounding with this particular example?
Yeah.
This man had some health hardships.
Yeah.
To the point where I think he even may be classified as disabled.
But he doesn't see himself that way. He doesn't see himself.
No, which is something we wouldn't allow. Well, you know what? He kind of alluded to it at the beginning when we first got into him, or when he first.
But he doesn't. But you understand what I'm saying? He doesn't call himself disabled.
No,
and he doesn't use it as an excuse to get out of his fucking commitments.
No. Well, he can't. Like I said early on, when he first came on, I think he tried. And it's not something we would buy. And truth be told, is disability is just a challenge that needs to be faced. That's all it is. It doesn't mean that people are useless. That's not what's going on. It just means you got a different challenge, different set of challenges than someone else. So you got to work around it. And in this particular individual, like, it's he made an agreement to a commitment to these posting of these photos, and he, being an amateur photographer, not really, it was a hobby, not really a career. And it's funny how, like, after the 90 days now, like, this hobby of his has now become
his career.
Almost like a side hustle, second income, because he, as far as I understood, he's somewhat semi-retired.
But
now this
he's
is becoming
turning this into a business for himself, right?
Yeah,
into a business.
And it's in it's actual a very incredible transformation from an individual who was at first was kind of closed, quiet, and whatever, but not afraid to be challenged by his men, make agreements, and keep them. Just like the results of holding a commitment are coming. An archive of photos now is turning into this hobby that he had into a revenue stream that he wasn't really even looking for it, to be honest.
And now he's excited about it.
Yeah, and why wouldn't he be with the feedback he's been receiving, that personal validation of the work that he's been doing? uh you know it's the stuff that I've been saying now for the last few years. Like, it's the one thing AI will never be able to do. AI will never be able to see the beauty in something that's everyday and mundane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And being able to capture that is what he's been doing. It's phenomenal. And if we go back to that first man we were talking about, who was wish-washy and whatever, this is a man that, is my understanding, had a few relationships go sideways. And
Yeah.
it's not, for us on this side, it's not hard to see why. Because when life is lived by priorities that are never firm, they're fluid. It's hard for your female partner to manage that relationship around that, right? And that's what she's going to do. Not to say that a man can't make decisions in a relationship, or that a man's going to lose whatever relationships he has. That's not what I'm saying. But the old saying was, a man builds a house, but a woman makes a home.
Yep.
How is she going to build the home if the man that builds the house keeps moving shit? You know what I mean? Changing dimensions of rooms and all that other stuff. Like, it's very difficult.
He's got to make a commitment and stick with it.
Like, it's got to be done. Yeah. And then she let her do her job. But if a man is constantly fluid, she cannot make build her parts of relationships around that, because she can't trust that you're going to be where you need to be. It's almost like almost like, say, like, even playing football. Like, when I don't know if you're into football. I'm not hugely into football, but I know, like, they have plays, they're set. The nice thing with, like, football with versus other games, it's a play and it stops and then it restarts, and it's play by play by play. And if you can imagine the woman being the constructor of what the next play is going to be, she needs to know that each player will be in his place when that play is executed, so it can be executed properly, rather than falling apart.
Amen. Amen. Beautifully said. And I wholeheartedly agree.
So I think that's, like, men need to understand the difference between priorities and commitments. And when a man steps into an agreement to commit to something, like, before you sign on the dotted line, you have to understand that shit is firm. It's like signing a contract. Say like, when you're out purchasing a car, purchasing a home. I don't know if many of these listeners have bought a home in recent years, but that is a lot of fucking signatures and a lot of agreements that you're agreeing to. There is a lot of shit. But, like, you sign on that dotted line, that now you are committed. In the example of financing a car, like, if your payment's on the 5th, bro, on the 5th every month, like, that payment's coming. And if you don't make it, there's some heavily repercussions. Like,
there's repercussions. Yeah.
Big time. And it's the same thing when it comes to the social hierarchy of men, or masculine men. If it's an effeminate man and you live by priorities, chances are he's doing the same thing, so he's not going to care. But when you need a man to cover your back because you're out there, you're gonna go slay the dragon, and you need someone beside you to do it. If you're a man by priorities, that man beside you may be as flaky as you, and the dragon may slay you instead. So men really need to be cautious when you're out there doing that. I find the men that live by commitment tend to gravitate towards being sole proprietors, entrepreneurs, but also in, like, the underside of the worlds too, right? Like, if you look at uh, the way gangs are run, gangs, whatever. They have a very strict code that's very masculine based. Like you are there to fill a job and be in a position, and if you're not there, the repercussions are heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. A man who doesn't keep his word ain't going to last in that sort of environment at all.
No, 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 not at all.
It's interesting. I was watching this TV show on Netflix called Better Call Saul. And
Oh,
yeah, it's a great show. It's really good. And there was a line one of the characters said to a man there who said, but I'm not a bad guy. He said, this isn't about you being a bad guy or a good guy. You're now a criminal. What you did broke the law. You are a
yeah,
criminal. I've known criminals who are good guys and cops who are bad guys. Um, you have to start with the truth of who you are, right? And I just listened to that and I thought, yeah, it makes sense. People in the criminal world, um, they're doing things that are against the law. They've chosen to be outlaws, as it were. Um, but that has nothing to do with what kind of person they are.
yeah,
You um, it just means that they've made a decision to live life a certain way. And, you know, in the past, I was somebody who always thought, oh my God, all criminals are bad guys. But maybe they're not. Maybe some of them are just people who made one bad error in judgment, right? Um, or multiple bad errors in judgment, as the case may be. But I still recommend that everybody stay on the right side of the law. Do not break the law. It's not a good idea. It's a terrible idea. Uh, and if you're living in a civil society, one of the things you got to understand is the price of admission to a civil society is we live according to laws.
yeah.
And that's a commitment that you make. And if you break that commitment because your priority is to get rich faster or whatever, don't do what other people tell you to do, shit's going to hit the fan, and it's going to hit the fan in not such a good way.
It's funny is when you look at if you parallel, you know, whether it's a gangster or an entrepreneur that's built a big company or whatever, there's always there's a parallel of the way these men operate and commitment's a high level of it, right? Um, I can't recount how many books we've read on personal development and
Yeah.
business. Who was it? Uh, I forget now, but they said like you know when you start a business, if you want it to be successful, you got to work at it like 6 days a week. It's like you can watch TV on Sundays. I forget who it was, um, but basically that's what they were saying. Like if you want to get a startup off the ground and successful in as
You're going
fast
to have
as
to
amount of
work,
time,
man. You got to
you're
work.
basically committing to work at this thing now, day in, day out, at least 6 days a week. And it's true. It's true. Like on my business, I work on it 6 days a week. I, I I don't know anyone that's running a successful business that's in the smaller phases, less than $1 million. I was working less than that. Unless it's only a few hundred grand. Like I know of a few entrepreneurs that basically own their own job. They only work, so many hours a day, so many
Yeah.
days a week, and they're stagnant. They don't really grow. They hover around a couple hundred grand, if that. But nobody that's trying to break into that, from small to medium sized business category. I don't know anyone that's not working 6 days a week, 10,
Yeah.
12 hours a day. Like it's very hard to get across that barrier, right?
100%. 100%.
Yeah. And that takes commitment. That's commitment. It's going to involve sacrifice, self-sacrifice at points, sacrificing whatever addictions you may have, and I don't mean addictions like, the stuff like that some of the people
Porn
on the
and
street.
drugs and alcohol.
Could be that, could be addictions to video games, movies, um, whatever those, the things that make us these social beings. There's always addictions to that. And it's part of who we are. Like that's the hard part, right? Is like, nobody starts out being a crackhead by themselves. It's always started off as a social experiment, and then they're stuck in that. Someone gives it to you. You don't just discover it on your own, kind of thing. Same thing with alcohol. Nobody starts drinking by themselves. Nobody just turns to a bottle and just starts going at it. That's very extremely rare. So it always starts off as a social habit. Same thing with like smoking, strip joints. It doesn't start off as a single individual. So
Amen.
yeah, that's the social aspect of us. and some of that shit will have to be sacrificed in the short term, for the long term benefit. And that takes commitment.
That's a very, very important point. If you're in a business, you got to sacrifice a whole lot of shit to get that business going. If you're going from being a civilian to being like a bodybuilder, like I'm doing right now, right? There's a whole lot of fucking things I'm sacrificing. Like I'm not going to
whole ton.
I'm not going to fucking out for dinner and eating whatever the fuck I want, and I'm making sure I work out 6 days a week.
6 days.
Yeah, I'm making sure that I have sleep as something I got my eye on, and I got to be honest. There've been times where like there's a lot of stress and pressure going on in the world, or my world, anyways, and I wake up in the middle of the night and can't fall back asleep. And that's a problem.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So
I do. Shit. Was it yesterday morning? I think I woke up. It was like 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah. You were telling me like this last couple of weeks, the average time I've been waking up is between 2 and 4, and unable to go back to sleep. So interestingly, just the last 2-3 days, I was able to sleep well. Like last night, I slept well, and on Thursday night to Friday morning, I slept well. Those are 2 nights in a row that I slept well, and I'm intending to sleep well tonight. But I got to tell you, it's one of those things. It's just one of those fucking things.
Yeah.
I've got to sacrifice a whole lot, including doing things that I'd rather do to not sleep. Yeah. And I look at it and I go, I can do more. There's still too much distraction in my world. And what I want to do is have there be less distraction. And I want to spend more time on attaining the things I need to attain. Mm-hmm. That's just a fact that's got to happen. You know what I'm saying, Arp?
Yeah.
It's just
yeah. Sacrifice. I get it, man. Like it's hard. Yep. Sacrifice is hard. Yeah, that's for sure. It's no one's gonna like it. It's gonna come with a fair amount of suffering too. To not have whatever you're sacrificing. But the results and the rewards after the fact, once you get through it, are there. That's and that's the thing. Keep the eye on the prize, because eventually you'll make it. And it'll be worth it.
Yeah. I actually wrote that down. Commitments involve sacrifices, and sacrifices involve suffering.
Yeah. I was listening to Joe Rogan the other day, and they were talking about humans and human suffering, and like it's an essential part of us. There has to be some level of suffering, and as it sucks to go through it, and not all of it is bad. Yeah. But the results at the end of it are definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. And anyone that's ever taken on anything big can recount those times. Like I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Like when my business was first launched, and I had my first few employees, there were times where like wouldn't stop for lunch. Like my employees all wanted to stop for lunch, and they went and bought lunch. And, I had taken my own personal money to make sure that the company was still moving forward. And I sacrificed that, right? I sacrificed a lot of that. So yeah, like it definitely happens. but the long term, it'll be worth it. I'm starting to try and teach my 9-year-old daughter about the same thing.
Amen.
That sacrificing stuff is definitely going to lead to better results in her life.
I like it. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
So here's the truth. Men need to understand the distinction between living a life defined by priorities or living a life defined by commitments. And they need to understand that living by commitments is more difficult in the short term, but in the long term, it's easier. It's a lot easier because I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of decisions I just don't have to make. You know what I mean? Day to day.
Yeah. They've already been decided.
They've already been decided.
Yeah.
Like Sunday mornings is my off day from workouts, but I still follow my plan. So before you and I started our podcast interview, I made my first meal, which was
now that's why you didn't want to do a podcast at 5:00 in the morning.
So I made my first meal, 200 grams of beef. So I made a small steak, 45 grams of oats, 100 grams of blueberries, 100 grams of banana, and 5 grams of almond butter, some hot water to mix all that up. So I knew I was having that. I got up. I was watching a little bit of this Better Call Saul this morning. And,
it's a great show.
It really is. It's fucking fantastic.
Yeah.
So I cooked the food. I ate it. And as soon as I was done eating, I headed up here to start the podcast. That's my commitment, right? Like I know I got to do that. So I'm going to put that level of getting the decisions out of my hands day to day into my world with my business because there's a bunch of shit we got to get done in the next little while.
Oh yeah.
And, so we're going to get it all. We're going to get it all done.
Us too. We need to lean out our business. We got way too many assets that we spent money on, and it's just capital tied up. And
well, there you go. So you understand what you got to get done.
Yeah. Definitely got to lean it out. That's for sure. Got to be like Malay, Got to just chainsaw a bunch of shit off the books.
Afuera.
That's it, man.
Yeah, fuck. Yeah. Amen, man. Amen.
Yeah.
Speaking of Malay, we need Canada's Malay, which I think is going to be Pierre Poilievre to win. I think Pierre Poilievre will win the next election.
I think he'll win. He'll win the next election because, honestly, I think the majority of Canadians just lack. Either they've lost their resolve and they're like, it doesn't matter who you vote for, they're all going to screw you, so why bother voting at all? Which I believe is
happened, bro. You know what happened? The NDP vote collapsed. The NDP vote, 18%, and this time it was 6%. If that 12% went from the Liberals to the NDP, we'd have a massive conservative majority. That's Jagmeet Singh, who you call dog meat, and I think he is dog meat. I believe he was a liberal plant. I believe he was a liberal plant in the NDP party.
Into the NDP party.
Crushed the NDP. He wanted to destroy the NDP, and he did. I don't think the next leader of the NDP is going to be that stupid or is going to be a plant. So I think the next leader of the NDP is going to be able to get their vote total back up over 10, 15%.
Dogmeat Singh, I think when he first started in the NDP party, he was probably a true NDPer. But I'm sure he was bought and sold. He sold himself to the Liberal Party, to Justin Trudeau. He sold. I don't know what he sold himself for. Bought. Yeah, 100%. I think Jordan Peterson was saying, the thing about money is like currency is like it's brought this new evolution amongst men where men will fall to the dollar, the coin, the gold, whatever it is. There's some point where you flash enough of that stuff, you can almost make any man fall. And I think that's what happened to Jagmeet. When Trudeau had the minority government,
So
Jagmeet had the potential to take him down. I think Trudeau bought him. He
yeah, he did.
sold
Of
out,
course, he did. He's
100%.
been
And
bought and paid
that
for. He is a
yeah,
liberal plant. He's been bought and paid for. So the other
bought
thing
and
that
paid for.
the other
He's
thing
not a
I'll tell
liberal.
you is,
He's not a liberal plant. What he ended up being is a whore, is what he's
well,
ended up being.
yeah. That's a nice way to put it. Um, James O'Keefe, the founder of Project Veritas and now O'Keefe Media, said that either is something is worth giving your life for, or you're for sale.
Yeah.
Or you're for sale. There is a price.
Yeah.
Whether the price is $1 million, 10 million, 100 million, you're for sale.
There's a price. Yeah.
Yeah, or you're either that or your life. It's worth giving your life for. And he said, for me, this is worth giving my life for. But I know that most people are for sale. And I was like, I listened to that, and I'm like, okay,
That's pretty wild. It's a pretty wild concept.
Wow, that is a next level distinction in the world of commitments versus priorities. Because people who live their life by priorities are for sale. People who live their life by commitments are not for sale.
Yeah, good. That's a good point, right? A man that lives by priorities
is for sale.
Is for sale. Wow.
Yeah. A man who lives his life by priorities is for sale.
That's an interesting concept there.
You like it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's true. All those men and women that any type of conflict, when you think about it, they're literally laying their life, putting their life on the line for what they believe in.
Yep.
And then you get some of these other men like dog meat, living his life by priorities, for sale. He was for sale.
Yeah,
okay?
It is for sale. But I believe Pierre Poilievre will be our next prime minister. I
believe he will too, but I don't think he's going to be at the level of Millet. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. We have to see, because
we have to see. I just got to say, in my opinion,
you've seen some of the stats
as far
that
as a major
right?
party leader is concerned in Canada, through my lifetime since I've been able to vote, he is the best and easily the most conservative man to have had a real chance of being prime minister. Easily. And all this bullshit by Maxime Bernier, the PPC, he's just the same as the Liberals, is lies. It's total fucking horseshit.
That's just Maxine trying to, get his following back up, right?
Yeah. Fuck it, man.
He's not conservative enough.
Oh, right.
Maxine,
he's the most conservative person that we've had in a major party position that has had a chance to win an election. The most. More conservative than Mulroney, more conservative than Harper, more conservative than any of these fuckwats. So shut the fuck up, dude. Like, seriously, shut the fuck up.
But I think, honestly, brother, I think once Canadians can't hide from the benefits of what Millet is doing in Argentina, I think it's coming this way, man. And,
I agree.
You've seen some of the stuff I showed you. Like, he got rid of all that rent control stuff, and all of a sudden now rental apartment construction is 150% up. Rent rates are coming down because landlords are competing to fill units. The exact opposite effect of what they thought the controls were put in place for. I love it how the left spins it. Oh, unemployment is on the rise. It's like, because he just cut out how many departments of that government, and these are, as Vivek Wamasari said it, these are skillless people that the only thing they could ever do is work for the government. Well, now the government is shrinking. These people have no job.
They have to go fucking get some skills.
They got to go and they got to reinvent themselves. If they're going to define themselves by just working in a government position, you're not going to survive. But you're not useless. Find your niche. There's a skill. There's something out there for you.
100%.
And I'm sure they'll find their way. They'll need a little bit of time. I'm not saying social welfare programs shouldn't be there, but I think they should come with a time limit, don't you?
100%, brother. 100%.
You get a year, 2 years to figure shit out, and then fucking go. you know as well as I do, with the whole case with smart results, if you don't stick a time frame on something, it's not going to get done. So like, yeah, I don't think, welfare should be, shouldn't be extendable. And I don't think it should have, it should definitely come with a time limit.
Yeah.
You've got to such and such a date to figure your shit out.
Beautiful.
Figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's totally beautiful to do that way.
It's the welfare system right now. Like it's definitely allowed people to hone their skills on how to game it, rather than
it's rife with abuse.
Yes,
it's rife
rather
with
than going out and producing value.
Our country, and any country that allows for free money, is basically encouraging people to be for sale.
Yeah,
it's encouraging them to be for sale, and their priorities.
It makes people dependent.
Yeah, but their priorities is to get that money. They have no commitment to like elevate themselves.
None.
No commitment. So it fits with the theme of today's episode, and it also ties into James O'Keefe, right? And what he has to say about the difference between a man who, is willing to give his life for something is not for sale, and a man who's not willing to give his life for something is for sale. And
for sale.
The truth of the matter is, a man who lives his life by priorities is for sale. A man who lives his life by commitments is not for sale.
Not for sale. Yeah.
Javier Milei is not for sale. I believe Pierre Poilievre is not for sale. Jagmeet Singh, Dogmeat Singh, is for sale.
100% for sale.
And he was sold, he was bought, he was paid for. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Mark Carney is for sale. And he has been bought and paid for. Right? And the truth of the matter is that these good guys, like the Malays, the O'Keefes, the Poilievres, even the Trumps, they're not for sale. And I'll just say this as a last thought here. There's been a lot of American conservative commentators that are shitting all over Pierre and saying, oh, how embarrassing, he lost his own seat. Oh, how horrible, he had this big lead and he lost it. And here's what I have to say to those American commentators. Listen, I normally like you. I normally am on your side. I believe in most of the things that you believe in. But hey, Mr. American commentator, shut the fuck up about Pierre. He is our best hope here in Canada to defeat the tyranny of the Liberal Party and to bring back the Canada that we all know and love. And what we don't need is some asswipe American commentators who don't know fuck all about how our country runs, commentating and making fun of Pierre. What we need is for them to be on our side and the side of the conservatives here the way we were on their side and the side of the conservatives in America. If you can't do that, at the very least have the good grace to shut the fuck up. And that's what I'm going to say.
What are they, Democrat supporters? What's going on?
No, they're Republicans theoretically, but that's like Patrick Bet-David, who I love, has been shitting all over Pierre because Pierre wouldn't come on his show and his feelings are hurt. He's all butthurt that Pierre wouldn't come on his show. I'm like, Pat, you know what? Get over it. He didn't come on your show. Big fucking deal. It would have been a good get for you, but it wasn't. Lay off. Now you're the guy? Come on, fuck off.
I'm a firm believer in reaching out to the youth. I think Pierre should have gone on the podcast. He should have gone on PBD. He should have gone on Rogan. He should have gone. Did you see what Trump did, man? Trump was he went to the ball.
As you know, dude, I'm the Mr. Podcast Guesting King. I've been on 740 shows. I wrote the book about it. And I made the case that that's why Trump won. And I agree that that's why Trump
100%.
won. But
I will tell you, all because of Trump's, what was his youngest son there? What's his name? Byron or whatever?
Barron Trump.
Barron Trump, man. He's a smart
dude,
kid,
listen. Let's lay off Trump for a sec. In Pierre's case, it was more complicated than that. First of all, the liberals are hammering him for being the Trump of Canada. He's pro-American. He's all for America. If he fucking went on a 2-week tour of America in the middle of the campaign, it wouldn't have gone well. They should have come to him, number one. And the only show that I fully agree he should have gone on is Rogan. All the other shows, I don't know if he should have gone on them. I think he should have definitely gone on Rogan, and then he should have gone on a ton of Canadian shows. But PBD, no offense, but PBD, big fucking deal. He's not as big as Rogan, so not necessary for him to go on PBD.
He's not as big as Rogan, but he's definitely more political. Well, his whole show is political now, right? Like it's
but the whole point is the reason that Trump went on those shows is because the people that listened to them were not political, and he was accessing the youth that were not political, and he did that successfully. So you go on Rogan, maybe you go on Theo Von type of shows. He goes on a couple of shows, and honestly, those shows should have fucking come to the campaign trail in Canada and interviewed him on the trail, on the bus. Yeah. Rogan should have come on the bus and said, hey, I'm with Pierre Poilievre on his bus, and I'm interviewing him. And that would have been smart. I agree, Pierre should have done that. But to attack him and call him an embarrassment is bullshit. First of all, he won 42% of the vote, which is the highest vote share any conservative has won since 1988. That's number one. So he absolutely lost zero support. All the people that were going to vote for him still ended up voting for him, okay? That is the fact. What happened, and this is what these dumbass Americans don't get, and by the way, I love Americans. I'm not putting down all of Americans at all. I love Americans, but you are dumbass Americans because you are fucking not getting this, and you're speaking out of your ass without understanding this. This is what gives Americans a bad name because one of the fucking complaints a lot of people make is Americans don't take the time to get to understand other situations and cultures other than their own. And this unfortunately feeds into that narrative. They didn't understand that the progressive vote coalesced around the liberals, that the NDP collapsed. This is why Pierre lost, because the progressive vote coalesced. And Canada, at the end of the day, is primarily a center-left nation. America's a center-right nation. We're a center-left nation. Center-left. 55% of our voters, 55 to 58% of our voters are progressive. They are never going to fucking vote conservative. Now, could you pick off 1 or 2%? Sure. Let's say Pierre had won as much as 44%, 45%, 46%. Now, if the NDP vote had stayed the same, maybe he could have won. But where are those votes coming from? Well, 0.8% was the PPC. Was that enough for us to win? I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure.
Did the PPC even get a seat? Nothing.
No, but they had like 200,000 votes. So let's say we won all those votes. I think we would have gone, instead of 143 seats, we'd have been up to 150. 150, okay? So we still lose. We would need to cut into the core NDP liberal vote, and that is doable, but it's only doable once people who voted for Carney see that he's still a fuck up like Trudeau. And it's not going to happen without that. And that's the problem with these American commentators.
The comment, I agree. They don't entirely understand our system because they only understand their own. Yeah. And the unfortunate part is that the U.S. Like the country itself is so large, and their market's so big, and it's so prominent globally.
Yeah, they don't care.
They don't care. It's not. I don't think it's that they don't care. See, us being Canadian, we are subjected to all their internal stuff. Like it's news here.
But it's not news to them. It's not news to them. I understand.
It doesn't work the other way around because in terms of market size and all that, like Canada's political landscape is a little bit. It's not significant for the majority of the Americans, so they don't understand.
But if you are a so-called political commentator, you ought to do your fucking homework.
Yeah, but PBD's it's primarily an American commentator, and you're right. He should have, before he starts rambling off about.
Yeah, honestly, I'm just going to tell you flat out, okay? He's butthurt because Pierre wouldn't come on his show, and he's fucking being petty and attacking Pierre for that reason. He is butthurt. There's no baby about it. You got to trust me on this. Like, there's things you're awesome at. There's things I'm awesome at. I'm telling you, he's Persian. I know exactly what he's doing and why he's doing it. It's classical Persian when they feel like they've been disrespected. This is how they act. Well, it's blah, blah, blah. PBD, shut the fuck up, bro. Shut the fuck up. You're embarrassing yourself. You're making yourself look stupid. And when I go to the vault, I'm going to go to him and I say, look, I love you. I came here last year. This is what I said. You may remember me. I am one of the smartest men who's not well known out in the world right now. I'm becoming better known. And I'm going to tell you, I've got a bone to pick with you. You ready? Are you going to give me the platform for 2 minutes to pick this bone with you? Because this is serious. And if he says, okay, then I'm going to say, you asked Pierre Poilievre to come on your show. Pierre didn't come on your show. And you got butthurt. And then you went and you attacked him. And this is classical Persian stuff. So don't try to pretend this isn't what happened. And the fact of the matter is, you don't understand what happened. You don't understand why Pierre lost. Pierre didn't lose because of the bullshit reasons that you say. He lost because the liberal vote coalesced around this, and that is primarily because President Trump opened his mouth and said what he said about Canada and the 51st state. And Canadians are proud, and Canadians have a love-hate relationship with the United States. When we love the United States, all's good. But when we don't love the United States is when they say things like this. And then people who otherwise would be logical, they just go into this headspace of, nope, fuck this. This is the guy who's going to take on Trump. Pierre's kind of like Trump, isn't he? So I can't vote for him. That was done. There was nothing Pierre could do to change those people's minds. He still won 42% of the vote. In 1988 was the last time a conservative won that many. In any other election between 88 and now, Pierre would have won a majority of 250 seats. He is our best hope in Canada for defeating the liberal tyranny. And for an American conservative like you to attack him and embarrass him makes our job harder. And I ask you, as someone who loves America and loves conservatism, to shut the fuck up and help us win and be on Pierre's side and not against him. And that's what I have to say. And then I'll shut up and see if he has a comment to make. Now, either he's got the balls to come and take that or he doesn't. We'll see. If he doesn't, no problem. That'll show me I'm never going to do anything with him again. I'm going to stop following him, and I'm going to tell people to stop following him. And for now, I'm a small voice, but I'm becoming a bigger voice. And as I become a bigger voice and a bigger voice and a bigger voice, I'll turn people away from that fucker. I just will.
Yep.
That's it.
So, you know what's another interesting data point from this last election? And I don't know if you've seen it, but there is a definite divide amongst voters. So 55 and under, majority supported conservatives.
Yeah, I'm very well aware of that.
55 and over, majority supported the liberals.
That's
so,
right.
You know, when I look at that, I'm looking at it, I'm saying either two things. One, you know, the under 55 just didn't show up to represent as well as they should have.
No, the older voters always vote in greater percentages than the younger voters.
Well,
that's always been true.
The boomers for the last, I don't know, 20 years or so, they dwarfed, you know, in terms of generations at the polls. They dwarfed everybody.
They don't anymore. Their participation in elections
is higher.
The highest percentage of any voter group. The younger voters vote less. Yeah. This is why Pierre, having gone on Joe Rogan, would have attracted more of those people who don't vote to him, and he could have helped him win.
Yeah, even though Joe Rogan did say on his podcast that he supported Pierre.
He did, but if Pierre had been on, that would have been better for Pierre.
And I Rogan doesn't really look at his social media, so there's like really no way to communicate with him. But I attempted to try and say, hey man, you need this guy on your show. You know, and if I was Pierre, I would.
I think he was trying to get on his show. I think he tried.
I'd fly to Texas to sit there for 3 hours and fly back.
I would have totally fucking
100% worth it. 100% worth it. But the other thing I'm trying to say is like, it's just a matter of time because the boomers are at end of life stages. Like I see my father, like I don't think he voted because he's fucking incapable of voting now. His mind is gone. But within the next 5 to 10 years, like these people are going to expire, and that conservative wave is going to take over this country.
Amen.
You know, and if you look at the age difference between Carney and Pierre, that's got to be a good 20 years difference.
Yep.
You know, I met Pierre.
Carney was born in 1965, I think. He's almost 60 years old. Pierre is in his early 40s, so it's a 15-year difference. 5 to 10 years.
It's a whole lot of difference.
Off. Conservatives are an ascendant.
The one thing that boomers fear the most is their next of kin, which is a really strange thing, but that's what's going on. You know, they fear their next of kin. the younger generation that's taking over. But at one point or another, they're not going to have the volume anymore. So this may be the last election that they can dictate. So we'll see. It's a minority government. It's not like Carney. I think another thing the Americans don't understand is in Canada, it's an elected monarch, right? So this Carney, as long as he's got a majority rule, can do whatever the fuck he wants. But he's got a minority government, so he's got to kind of walk that thin line. And the other thing a lot of people don't understand too, the only way Carney won is he took every single policy, with the exception of defunding the CBC, and enacted it before the election. He cut the carbon pricing on retail fuels down to zero, which was one of Pierre's biggest points when prior to the election. Cutting taxes for the middle class. Like, this is all stuff that the conservatives were campaigning on, and Carney basically took the wind out of that sail, and then called an election almost right away. Like, the best part of Carney right now is the conservatives, because he did everything the conservatives were asking for, more or less. So if he wants to remain in power, if he wants to have the big seat, he's basically got to do keep the conservatives on his side, because you piss off them and the Quebecois, and we could be back to the polls in no time. So it'd be interesting to see what goes down.
Well,
this is like American style politics, American style politics. Like every 2 years or whatever, things flip, and it's like a perpetual.
Here's what I think's going to happen. Here's what I think's going to happen. Here's what I think's going to happen. Carney will. The carbon tax thing, I don't think he's going to flip it back on the people, because he knows it's going to kill his support. So he's already committed to bury it. He said he wants to cap producers. Well, you can't. The producers are just relay the cost forward. So it's going to come back. It's the same pile of shit, just slightly different. If it's not the cow, it's the bull. No, I understand. All I'm saying is he's not going to increase the consumer carbon tax, because that'll hurt him. So he gets that. I also have a feeling that he's going to do something about the crime, because that's a big reason why they lost in Ontario. I think he's going to toughen some of the crime laws, the bail laws. It's not going to be as bad as it was under Trudeau, but in general, I think he's going to follow through on most of Trudeau's policies. And that's why I believe after about 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, there's going to be a crisis of confidence. There'll be a non-confidence vote, and he'll lose it. And whoever the next NDP leader is, whoever it is, they are not going to fucking do what Jagmeet did, because they know I got to grow myself, which means I got to differentiate from the Liberals. I'm not going to fucking be in a supply and confidence agreement with them that devastated the party. And whoever gets elected is going to have to fucking say clearly, we're making no deals with any party, no fucking deals. That's what cost us our status, which is the truth. Yep. Like Jagmeet Singh destroyed his party for personal gain.
Yeah. Well, I think he wasn't a one hit wonder there. I think his whole party as a collective, they all stood behind him. So like they're all guilty.
You don't understand, no, dude. You don't understand how parliamentary democracy works. Your leader is an absolute monarch. Like, if you go against your leader, you are kicked out of the party.
Yeah,
that's a big deal. You have to be ready for that, right? Like, only 2 MPPs did that during COVID lockdown for the Conservatives, Randy Hillier and Roman Baber. Okay, they were both instantly booted from the party.
Yeah,
instantly, right?
Yeah, but they're sitting MP, and like it's easy. If you're gonna get booted from the party, you can join the other one.
Then you're subject to the same rules, probably for somebody whose policies you disagree with even more. That's not a real choice, bro. In parliamentary democracy, you got no choice. Like, to say, oh, they should have done it, it's not that easy. If you're a U.S. congressman, it's different, because they don't have that kind of power over you. But
Yeah.
in Canadian parliamentary democracy, you got to do what your leader says. That's kind of what you sign up for when you agree to become a candidate for the Conservative Party. Is you're going to follow the leader, like it's in the fucking, the agreement that you make. So it's not that easy for them to do that. But what I can tell you is this, right? The NDPers who follow Jagmeet, I've been hearing for years, are not happy about it. They're not happy about it. They wanted this thing to have been done a while ago, and they're blaming the loss of their seats on this asshole. And Jagmeet said it. He said it. Oh, I know if I had done this in the fall, we could have won lots of seats, but that would mean a conservative government, and I couldn't stomach that, which means you're a liberal plant. Or a whore, as you put it, and you were bought and paid for. That's all it means,
Bought and paid for. Yep.
Anyways.
He was bought.
Arpa,
Sir.
This has been fun. I really enjoyed this. It's been a while since
Kind of
we've
went
done
off
a
on a tangent.
It's a good tangent, though, and it fits into the whole theme of today's podcast.
If Dogmeat stayed to his commitments, he wouldn't be in the shit space he is now.
And our country wouldn't be in the shit
his own
space it's
bullshit
in
over everything. Yeah,
I agree. Our country wouldn't be in this shit space. So there you go. All right, brother. That's good.
Right, chat.
And that's a wrap.
Thank you for listening to the Sovereign Man Podcast. If you're ready to take charge of your life and become the man you've always wanted to be, we invite you to join the movement at sovereignman.ca.